Hidden away in an ancient ruin, Link and company have discovered a prototype guardian. One that is far more powerful than its typical ilk, and has strangely decided to fight alongside the rest of the group. In Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, the battle-tested Guardian is able to absolutely decimate any enemies in its way, be they crowds of smaller minions, or even some of the most titanic creatures in all the land. It does take fully understanding how to utilize many of its systems in order to be able to use the full extent of its powers. So let's go ahead and spin on in and take a closer look. The Guardian's regular attack string consists of 7 attacks. It will slash to the right, spin all its arms around itself, pound several times to the front, jump forward, stomp on the ground with its arms, then pound its body hard onto the ground, before finishing with a laser blast to the front. Moving on to its dash attacks, for its regular dash it will do a spin move, from which you can then transition into its regular attack string. For its strong dash attack, the Guardian will fire off a laser blast. However, this also works incredibly well with its unique action mechanic, but I'll get into what that is a little bit later. Moving over to its mid-air attacks, its regular aerial string will have it do another 3 slapping attacks, while the strong aerial will have it do another kind of laser blast. Before moving on, let's finish by covering the Guardian's Sheikah Slate runes. Starting out with its stasis, the Guardian will time lock enemies in front of itself before launching into a canned animation where it begins to spin around, having its arms repeatedly slap anything that was nearby when it started the spin. You are able to dodge cancel out of this attack if you want to. However, this is one of those rare stasis animation attacks that is actually able to handle clearing weak point gauges if your foe was already in range. If you want to use these slaps to do the job, you do need to remember that it has an extremely short range and you'll need to be right up on your enemy, and sometimes it's hard to see whether you're hitting them or not, so maybe tilt the camera up a little bit. On the other hand, the Guardian does have some other really great strong attacks to clear out weak point gauges if you've frozen one, so it might be the better choice to just dodge cancel out of it most of the time. Next up, for its Cryonis rune, the Guardian will summon up an ice block right under itself, from which it will then begin automatically riding the wind. From here, you can then start up any of its aerial attacks, or just cancel out of the flight and fall back down to the ground. For the Guardian's Magnesis rune, it will grab metal objects to then make a vortex of damage in front of itself, which it will channel for a short while until finally releasing it. Last up, the Guardian's Remote Bomb rune is really something special. When used, the Guardian will begin firing out a succession of bombs, which are able to be aimed and also will absolutely chew through enemy weak point gauges with ease. This is a very fast way to either force out a weak point on an enemy that you know is already close to breaking, or just a fun way to blow up entire crowds of mobs. All in all, it's just a fantastic rune. With all of the Guardian's most basic moves out of the way, let's make a brief stop to cover its unique action next. Although every Guardian that we've fought before in these games uses its targeting laser to lock on and then follows it with a blast, the first thing to understand about this playable Guardian is that these 2 pieces of this attack work separately for it. With its unique action, the Guardian is able to lock onto a target after keeping its targeting laser on them for a bit, but this will not then cause a blast. All it will do is create a little reticule on your screen that shows that your strong attacks will now all be directed into it. This targeting is going to last until you target another creature, or until the creature that you're targeting has died. And for a quick example of how to use it, let's jump back to its dashing strong attack. On its own, you can use this attack to blast through crowds while on the move. However, if you use it when locked onto your target, you can also use it to move around however you want while knowing that you will reliably blast at your foe without needing to stop ever. This means that with proper movement, you can be pretty much untouchable while you continue to lay in more and more damage. Just in general, if you're not trying to interject your enemy's movement and attacks with your own attacks, in Warriors games, it's really easy to kite around and avoid all damage. For example, if you're reliably moving away from it, almost every enemy, including Lionels, are pretty much unable to do anything to you. So when moving around and blasting them with total freedom, you can pretty much turn absolutely any boss into a joke if you have enough time to whittle them down like this. Although this move also works equally well with smaller named enemies too. This is just one example of the untouchable range spam that the Guardian can dish out, but we'll get to those other ones as we move into its strong attacks next. The Guardian's first strong attack is mostly a repeat of his other lasers, just a single stationary blast that also has the additional ability to be held in order to enter an aiming mode where you can then blast more accurately wherever you want. This is a fine move to blast at your foe when you have a lock on it and don't need to be on the move, as it's going to be doing a bit more damage than your typical moving shot. Next up, for its second strong attack, the Guardian will fire off several smaller homing lasers. However, when you use this while locked on, this move will really start to set itself apart. When used in this way, you will instead fire off a longer series of lasers that will not pause you in the slightest, so you can then continue to do other things while you continue to pelt them with damage. This is an excellent attack to add in while doing other elongated attacks, such as his sixth strong attack, but I'll get to that one in a bit. Moving on to its third strong attack, the Guardian will fire off a very long laser, turning from left to right as it blasts at a distance. This move in this form can easily cut right through crowds. However, it also gains new utility when you have a target locked on, as it then will instead turn into an extremely long-range sniping shot, and is yet another way for you to completely embarrass bosses while you shoot them from afar. Next up, for its fourth strong attack, the Guardian will fire out a barrier before then blasting it, creating a sparkle of shots that bounce around in the area for a while. This is an excellent area clearer, but it should pretty much only be used on weaker enemies, as it pretty much gains nothing for being used with the Guardian's targeting mode. Next, for its fifth strong attack, the Guardian will float in the air for a bit before firing off several larger aiming shots, which fly up and then explode if they happen to hit any enemies. The last of these shots is able to force out your enemy's weak point gauges, but it is far from the best way for the Guardian to begin its assaults. Last up, but certainly not least, is one of the most absurd attacks that I've ever seen in any Warriors game. When used, the Guardian will start channeling a very long aerial beam, which, when untargeted, will cause the Guardian to freeze in place while you control the beam instead, during which you can be knocked out of using this move if an enemy hits your body. When you use this attack while having a target, this move becomes a completely debilitating nightmare for your foe. For one thing, you will not be locked down if you use it in this way. The beam will instead automatically target onto your foe from above and stick onto them without error. Once they are hit by the beam, notably at the beginning and not at the end, the enemy's weak point gauge will also be forced out, which means that this is very easy for the Guardian to then capitalize on. If you time lock your enemy with stasis, their gauge will likely be destroyed in no time due to the huge laser that is continuing to blast them from above. After which you can go right into the weak point smash or just start up another 6 attack combo. When you use this attack correctly, you can have any named enemy under your complete control, and there's really no recourse for anything in the game to get out of it. Pardon the pun, but this move really is a blast. Well, with all of its attacks out of the way, let's move on to the Guardian's weapons and weapon build recommendation next. The battle-tested Guardian has 3 possible weapons, and going from weakest to strongest, they are the battle-tested screw, battle-tested spring, and battle-tested gear. I'll put a chart up on screen right now to show off their hidden level 25 and 30 seals, but for my weapon build recommendation today, I am going to focus on the battle-tested gear. Due to the Guardian's best weapon already coming with 2 square seals, in order to get the best damage buff of plus 20, I would most likely recommend 2 square-shaped attack speed seals, followed by 2 star-shaped strong attack damage seals. Usually, I'm pretty happy with a build like this, but in the Guardian's case, pretty much its only weakness is its slow speed getting to some of its crazier strong attack shenanigans. So actually, my top recommendation is going to be to forego the plus 20 attack bonus and just go with as many attack speed seals as you can. And just like that, we have the battle-tested Guardian covered. Let's put everything together to see how the big guy ends up. To be perfectly honest, the Guardian wasn't a playstyle that clicked for me at first, but all it took was me fully unlocking everything it could do and messing around with it for a bit in order for me to fully comprehend what the developers had just put into this game, and I have to say that my first impression was entirely turned on its head. When its unique action and strong attacks are used together, the Guardian becomes the best boss killer in the entire game, and trapping enemies with endless satellite blasts while running laser drive-bys on them is definitely a playstyle that I didn't even know that I wanted until I got it. Killing bosses with ease is far from the only thing that this Guardian can do, however, and without even touching its targeting system, it can equally smash through crowds and minor named foes as well. This character is somewhat the successor to Jirahim from the previous Hyrule Warriors, but without the time limit that was on his targeted dual functions, a lot more adaptability and cohesion with strong attacks, and a far more solid overall moveset on top of it all. Just in a single word, the power that this Guardian brings is absolutely awesome, which is exactly how a fully playable Guardian should be. So, what are your thoughts on the battle-tested Guardian? Be sure to let me know in the comments below, and also if there was anything big that I missed, go ahead and drop that down below as well. I'll be making a pinned comment on this video for anything big that I may have forgotten about. As always, thank you so much for watching everyone, and I hope to see you next time. Big thank you to my top patrons DW7 Still Rules, Henry Gutierrez, and Ryan Poe, as well as to all of my other patrons on Patreon. If you would like to support this channel and my main channel Shanebrained, check out the links in the description. Thank you all very much.